Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. So look, I know this is probably the last thing on anyone's mind, especially given the pandemic lockdown where a lot of us have found ourselves, and I'll add that for the release of a massive album bomb chock full of what he thinks are bangers, this is a nightmare for any touring artist, especially with chart success. But am I happy that I'm stuck inside with more Lil Uzi Vert than I know what to do with? Especially as I already reviewed the album on the Pulse in the main channel, and especially as the majority of these entries landed in the top 40 and thus skirted my rules? No, I'm not too happy about that. And this time it actually did reach our top 10, which is starting to show some signs of movement, with the exception of The Box by Roddy Ricch at number 1. But there are some cracks showing. Radio is weakening, sales are slipping, and while YouTube pretty much cements its hold on streaming overall, in on-demand streaming it lost the top spot, at least for this week. Now granted, I don't believe Don't Start Now by Dua Lipa will be the song to beat it up to number 2. Despite radio dominance and good sales, it's got nowhere near the streaming to break the margin yet, although it is better off than Life is Good by Future featuring Drake down at number 3, which actually had a better than expected radio week and still did well on streaming, but those sales will not get it anywhere. Now what I see having more of a chance is Blinding Lights by The Weeknd up to number 4, a song that is seriously on the upswing in all categories, especially in sales or on the radio. If it holds steady or picks up gains as Roddy Ricch takes some hits across streaming channels, this could surge. Now, of course, this places Circles by Post Malone in a bit of a weird position, falling down to number 5 despite good sales because it finally lost the top spot on the radio and is now slipping hard there. But this takes us to our much bigger story of the week, the debuts from Lil Uzi Vert in the top 10, which are conveniently the first 3 songs of the album are just driven pretty much off of streaming alone. So yes, that's why Baby Pluto is at number 6, and then skipping over Roxanne by Arizona Zervas at number 7, it's now slipping into radio freefall, and streaming and sales took major hits. It might as well be starting to fall off there. We got Lo Mein at number 8 and Silly Watch at number 9. And around things out, we got Intentions by Justin Bieber featuring Quavo at number 10, which has a full-fledged radio push. See, this is the lesson that nobody remembers from the last great wave of album bombs in 2018. The stuff that tends to survive is the industry-backed radio pushes, even if they are just complete dog shit. And while we are here, are losers and dropouts. And as I predicted last week, there aren't that many in the latter category, but that's what happens when you get album bombs that go in succession. Songs are pruned away a little bit faster, and it's a little bit more gradual what eventually falls off. So yes, Bad Guy by Billie Eilish and Señorita by Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello, they made their exits, along with One Man Band by Old Dominion, but I'm not exactly about to complain that the songs that are cut off early are Kinfolks by Sam Hunt, or Out West by Jack Boys featuring Young Thug, or Suicidal by YNW Melly. Now we also have a full quarter of the charts losing here, so let's go through this as quickly as possible. Now first, our continued losses for After Hours by The Weeknd down to 100, To Die For by Sam Smith at 96, and Yummy by Justin Bieber, which is flopping hard at 67. And then we have the gains cut short, tied from our album bombs here, with Some to Prove and Whoa by Lil Baby at 52 and 31 respectively, Vite by Bad Bunny at 66, and Ignorantes by Bad Bunny and Sek at 83. Then we got all the new arrivals from last week that saw their album bombs crater, so let's start with Bad Bunny and get my butchered Spanish out of the way, with Yo Perreo Sola down to 97, La Santa with Daddy Yankee at 92, Si Vio a Tu Mama at 56, and La Difícil at 54. Then we had the Lil Baby losses, with Grace with 42 Doug at 98, Commercial with Lil Uzi Vert at 68, Emotionally Scarred at 64, and Heatin' Up with Gunna at 57. Then of our other debuts, well, as expected, Stupid Love by Lady Gaga plummeted to 30, The Other Side by SZA and Justin Timberlake fell to 80, and PTSD by G-Herbo, Chance the Rapper, Juice WRLD, and Lil Uzi Vert went to 88. And that just leaves Go Stupid with Polo G and Ali Chapa and Stunna for Vegas at 90, Tusa by Karol G and Nicki Minaj sliding back to 75, What a Man Gotta Do by the Jonas Brothers at 63, Good as Hell by Lizzo at 49, High Fashion by Roddy Ricch featuring Mustard at 43, You Should Be Sad Bad by Halsey at 41, Lose You to Love Me by Selena Gomez at 38, Bop by DaBaby at 35, and Juicy by Doja Cat and Tyga at 71. Now, you would think that the only gains and returns would be driven off of the album bomb this week, and yet we got more, arguably to our benefit. Neither Megan Thee Stallion nor Jhene Aiko had album bombs effectively, but we did get to see BITCH at 59 from the former, and Triggered and None of Your Concern with Big Sean at 87 and 93 from the latter, along with Sugar by Brockhampton, which is back at 95, and I'm just thrilled it's here. It's such a shot of fresh air. Then we had gains for Godzilla by Eminem and the late Juice WRLD at 32, thanks to the video. Pussy Fairy by Jhene Aiko, rebounding huge as I predicted to 40, and then Homemade by Jake Owen at 60. I don't know either. But of course, the big story is our album bomb from Lil Uzi Vert with Eternal Atake. And that means, along with the return of Futsal Shuffle 2020 at 48, the new arrivals that fell below the top 40 and don't qualify under my rules for best or worst are Urgency with Sid at 76, Secure the Bag at 72, Bust Me at 51, and Chrome Heart Tags at 45. The rest are in the top 40. Joy. So yeah, long list ahead of new arrivals, but we're starting off instead with number 89, Oprah's Bank Account by Lil Yachty, Drake, and DaBaby.
Diamond in the rough, you look as good as Oprah's bank account. I just wanna take you out.
Am I the only one who has no clue how to fully process this song? I mean, for one, how in the nine hells did Lil Yachty manage to snag both Drake and DaBaby in 2020, especially when he was trying to get Lizzo? And what's bizarre is that none of the verses are precisely bad, especially when you're operating on the premise of saying a girl looks as good as Oprah's bank account. So when you're on that level of ridiculousness, Drake comparing himself to both Obama and Osama bin Laden, and then talking about getting kissed by Madonna, while DaBaby talks about his girl needing a tank, but then talking about him moving on anyway to take your girl. Honestly, Lil Yachty's verse might not be absurd or weird enough, but neither is the production. The slightly off-kilter keys and the oily elements flooding out the song against the lumpier trap beat, it makes you think there's going to be more of a climax than we actually get. And overall, it just feels kind of stiff and clunky. I'm more inclined to call it a failed experiment than outright bad. It's not a song I like per se, but not one I'm going to get all that annoyed with either, especially as I get the feeling it probably will not stick around. Next up, number 79, SKYBOX by Gunna. So if there's one thing that this new Lil Uzi Vert album exposes, is that if we have an album and we have an artist doing trap with at least some flair and empty color, we sure as hell don't need more from Gunna around, who's riding off this oily, clicking gurgle of production that honestly deserves a performer that actually has some punch or vocal flair. That's the frustrating thing. Gunna can occasionally pick a decent, blissed out beat, and this is fine, but he still raps like screwing his girl's friends, calling himself the greatest of all time, which he is emphatically not, then smacking girls on the fanny, and then talking about lean in his bladder. Somehow he makes it sound like the most boring thing imaginable. And maybe it is, because he still has time to complain about people talking on the internet about him because he took some kind of loss, which of course he never describes. So yeah, decent production, a vacant non-entity as the rapper. Next, number 74, Captain Hook by Megan Thee Stallion.
I do what they copy, ayy. Look, he's a sweetie, kiss it when he eat it, ayy.
I am so happy that Megan is pushing this as the potential single instead of the auto-tune crooning that she tried in the back half of Sugar, because this is probably her best song off that project. Yes, it's exactly something you would expect from Megan off a leaden bass rumble, trap skitters, and the clinking sounds of swords with barely any melody, which I do think is a bit of a misstep, especially off that very low-key hook. And really the content, it's familiar too. Megan taking guys, fucking them, flirting with girls, coordinating threesomes, and some otherwise pretty empty flexing about how hot she is. But you know what? It is a testament to actually sounding engaged, flipping up your flow, and having actual charisma that this song actually does slap pretty hard. Now, I do wish it actually ended with a proper hook after that third verse, and she could probably stop to afford mentioning Hot Girl Summer months later. But otherwise, for what it is, it's solid. I like this. Check it out. Next up, number 65, Happiness Over Everything by Jhene Aiko featuring Future and Miguel.
Don't care, that just lets me know that she knows what she wants, yeah.
And on the topic of things that I really like, yes, I get the criticism of this song basically being a long overdue remake of a 2011 song that Jhene had on her first mixtape that featured a really clunky Gucci Mane verse and an Andre 3000 interpolation. The difference here is that where the original was kind of timid and honestly barely showed Jhene coming into her own, this flip recontextualizes her presence into something more vivacious and celebratory. Coming on the album where she has fully regained her sexual autonomy in her relationship, even if they're gonna try and paint her as a hoe for doing so. They're gonna try and slut shame her, but it's not gonna work. And as a whole, the song just feels way better layered and produced than the mixtape days. The crunchier percussion playing off the hi-hat taps and the dreamy keys, it's a lot more immersive. Miguel sounds better, Jhene sounds way better with a more commanding presence, and even Future can play off the lightly toxic but kind of subversive vibe that runs through the entire song. It's just a great sensuous cut. It's not the collab I would have loved to see chart, that was 10,000 hours with Nas, but hey, you know what? I had a lot of fun. I'll take what I can get. Number 39, Venetia by Lil Uzi Vert.
We got some new bands, we got some new bands, yeah, yeah. Treating these DOs like this is old bands, yeah, yeah.
Now this, on the other hand, sucks. I'm gonna try to keep most of these Uzi entries pretty short because he really gives me so little to say. But this one is notable because it's all about the expanded brand name flexing, fucking your girl who wants his money, and then turning lesbian straight. I don't care how good the production is, and it is alright enough with the popping percussion building off the slow expansion of melody. I'm not excusing that. And Uzi, nobody cares that much about your wordplay. Next. Number 37, I'm Sorry by Lil Uzi Vert.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you were misled. Yeah.
Convenient title, as Uzi tries to apologize over a bubbly beat where it becomes abundantly clear that he's not remotely sorry for anything by saying that this girl is banned from his existence and that he can make her cry until she comes. And then he wants us to feel sorry for him because he's unlucky he had to deal with this. I'm not sympathetic and I don't accept your apology. Let's move on. Number 36, You Better Move by Lil Uzi Vert.
Oh, you better move. Oh, you better move. Oh.
Uzi, we're dealing with a pandemic and I'm stuck inside most of the day. I can't move anywhere. Even if I do think the Spacey sample is one of the more innovative flips on the project, even if it never really evolves effectively. Beyond that, he mentions stealing your girl and potentially catching the flu. Timely, and then features one of the most annoying hooting vocal inflections I've heard in a while from him as he makes a Yu-Gi-Oh reference and tells this girl to eat on his dick with a spoon. Ew indeed. Number 34, Celebration Station by Lil Uzi Vert.
That man fucking with me, handstand. I can't lie, she got that good, but that girl bad, bad.
I mean, the production would be decent if it didn't feel overmixed in the vocals opposite the fizzy and clinking percussion, but this is where we also learn Uzi has to count and has to verify that he has 10 fingers amidst the empty flexing and getting blown with a good flip into the second verse, only for the line, but I'm young enough for your daughter. Given Lil Uzi Vert's target audience, this feels really icky, especially as he will then repeat it in that verse. I'm not gonna celebrate this. Number 33, Bigger Than Life by Lil Uzi Vert.
Because I am the one that still come back even though I made it out. I thought she was G when I put in my D. She was screaming, she said, come on, take it out.
Honestly, I don't mind the guitar blending here against some of the choral vocals and the hand clap, and Lil Uzi Vert rides the underweight beat pretty well until we get a hook where she's screaming for him to pull his dick out, and then we get verses stuffed with empty flexing and lazy repetition. Again, decent production. Imagine if an interesting rapper was on top of it. That could be something instead of mediocrity. Number 28, Pop by Lil Uzi Vert. Again, we get some spacey synths with a really cheaply blended trap beat, but this is probably the song where on the album I was looking for the exit. Lil Uzi Vert's flow is so sloppy here on the hook and the verses where he's just outright off the beat with a bunch of incredibly lazy flexing and of course fucking your girl. Again, I get that it's a basic as fuck power fantasy, but this sour, this slapdash in a way that I can't even imagine empathizing with. In other words, it might pop for a second, but just winds up blowing. Number 26, Prices by Lil The The most interesting thing about this song is the sample cleared from Travis Scott's underrated Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight, and now the hook doesn't slap nearly as much as Uzi seems to think it does. Otherwise, fucking your girl, brand names, giving him head until he's in a coma, bragging about his model that has vitiligo, and that his prices have gone up. You know what, the funny thing about that, when you massively inflate the supply, prices tend to go down, so if you're asking for more, you're on the wrong side of the demand curve. I want this market to close. Number 24, BS by Jhene, Aiko, and H.E.R.
You don't know how to deal with me. I'm fucking with you, don't know how to love me.
So let's take a brief break from Lil Uzi Vert with a collaboration that I honestly wished worked better. What's frustrating is that you can hear the pieces where this could work in the watery plucks opposite the snap that Jhene can ride pretty well, especially as that bubbly low end slides in. And even if I don't always like Jhene against trap percussion, she sounds comfortable here on this flex. But then H.E.R. slides in for an okay enough verse discussing the guys that she's gonna run through, and not only is it not really a vibe that flatters her flow, she has shockingly limited chemistry with Jhene on their hook. Maybe the song just need to feel a little more organic overall, a lot more of H.E.R.'s guitar and less trap elements. That'd be a better comfort zone for the both of them. But as it is, I'm just left feeling that this should be a lot better than it is. It's not bad, but not really great either. Just saying. Number 22, Homecoming by Lil Uzi Vert. And we're back to Uzi, albeit briefly, and here's one of the better songs from the album. The flows feel a little sharper against the bassy, slightly more ramshackle production. It's a sample of Baby Got Back of all things. And you know what? I can almost hear DaBaby or Denzel Curry making something decent out of this. Shame we're stuck with Lil Uzi Vert fucking your girl with the same sort of mindless flexing, but the stormy switch up for the second verse, it does slap pretty decently, even if he still has nothing to say. Number 18, I Love Me by Demi Lovato. Alright, look, I'm trying to be sympathetic to Demi Lovato here. She's clearly going through a lot, and aspirational material has always been her lane, and if she wants to cuss out the paparazzi's overexposure of her and critics who go off online when she's just frustrated and she wants to be satisfied with herself again, I'm not against it in theory, but if she wants to turn that frustration into an anthem like Confident was, this is not it at all. And with Oak on production, I'm not even surprised. You get moments on the hook that sound like they're gonna explode, and then it all collapses into the chintzy, poorly compressed tones that you would get on the verses, with all that rinky-dink keyboard line. Yes, the final hook tries to go for broke, and Demi Lovato can still sing, but she's not produced in a way that will flatter her, which might as well be the story since 2016. It's frustrating because she does have real talent. She's a decent songwriter, but this rollout for this new album is not playing to her strengths as an artist at all. And her producers, they're not helping whatsoever. So yeah, as a fan, I'm not a fan of this. Next, number 11, P2 by Lil Uzi Vert.
Life is not fun. There's no emotion on my face cause I'm not. You see me.
It's just H.E.R. Tour Life Part 2 that somehow misses the lesson of the original messy release and being overproduced and polished, with a hook that's all about gaslighting and this idiotic flexing, no clear atmosphere, and even less tonal consistency. I didn't even like the original H.E.R. Tour Life, so you're just gonna re-release it and somehow make it worse? Yeah, no. I'm out. Number 9, Silly Watch by Lil Uzi Vert.
On your bitch, make that hoe on a milli rock. I'm with my boys and no, we do not milli rock. Funny money, no, this is not no silly guap. Got a richer milli, this not a silly walk.
I really wish I could find this song as fun as everyone else seems to, because while the flow on the hook is faster and tighter against the bells and pianos, it just does not transition well into the verses at all, and in said verses, he's just gonna stop by to pant for breath for a couple bars before we go back to the empty flexing and fucking your bitch and sliding off the beat. You got decent production and a good hook for once. And once again, Lil Uzi Vert is the weakest part of his own damn song, where the most interesting line has him complain that since Hugh Hefner died, he can't get with a Playboy bunny. I'm losing interest, so let's move on to number 8, Lo Mein by Lil Uzi Vert.
Ball main pocket feel fresh romaine, and I stay with the cash like an XO chain.
How does the second song on your long-awaited comeback album have such cheap-sounding underweight percussion, especially when your synth pileup is trying to add some opulence to the track? It's not even a particularly good melody, but at least it works for the distinctive flows on both the verse and the hook. I mean, high fucking bar we're working with here, as we get more brand name flexing and fucking your girlfriend and talking about his Balenciaga undies. Am I the only one who just does not think any of this is cool, or interesting, or distinct, or memorable? Look, whatever, we only got one more song left, and that is number 6, Baby Pluto by Lil Uzi Vert.
I stay with the baddest, I'm counting cabbage while making my lady come.
Oh look, he's doing a Future impression against production that I actually kind of like. The shimmering keys, some decent subtle swell, and the lead into the percussion finally coming in midway through the verse. It's well delivered. Shame we have Lil Uzi Vert talking about the sticky with some gunplay to go with the brand names and his neck being on squeegee and all the fucking disposable girls and Hondas. And after a solid dozen songs with this guy, not only am I left with the impression that Lil Uzi Vert is the furthest thing from interesting, he's frequently the most obnoxious and frustrating part of his own damn songs. It's rarely fun, but even by the standards of empty flexing, it's just incredibly repetitive. And maybe it's just me growing up in the crunk era, which is often just as vapid and featured some really sloppily produced albums that also went on way too long and all the hedonism, but at least those songs had performers with some vocal presence and bass in their voices, and beats that tended to bang harder than this. With this album, I guess this song's okay for what it is, but I can't believe I'm gonna say it, even Future is trying harder these days. But yeah, that was our incredibly long and frustrating week. Best is easy with happiness over everything from Jhene Aiko with Miguel and Future, speak of the devil, and honorable mention to Captain Hook by Megan Thee Stallion. Worst, they're both from Lil Uzi Vert, with Venetia getting the bottom spot and Pop as the dishonorable mention. Although, again, there was some real competition for some of these here. And yet I get the distressing feeling that the Lil Uzi Vert show, it's not over, because we got Love vs. the World 2 coming. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you.